All right, let's do some Mathity-Math. Got a four-part question here. Let's tackle this from the jump. Here we go. It says you are trekking across the Sahara, and your camp is at point C with the coordinates 4, 2. Okay, before we get started, when I see stuff like that, I usually like to draw myself a little sketch just to keep track of everything that's going on, because I can already tell there's going to be a lot of coordinates and stuff, and it's a long problem. So I'm going to go ahead and draw this sketch. So let's see, make an XY plane here. Okay, so it says point C at 4, 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. That's point C. And we said it's at over 4 and up 2. Okay, and then it says your next stop is at point D. The point D coordinates are -3 and 7. Okay, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that puts me there. And that's point D. And D has the point -3, 7. Okay, going on with the story. Oh wait, so your camp's at point C, your next stop. So that means I traveled there, okay? So you decide to travel from point C to point D on foot, like it says. Okay, so we traveled from C to D. So if I went from C to D, and there you go. What I just did was I made a vector for CD, and that's just kind of what the story said. And that's a big part of math, it's just translating a story into the language of math, which is usually a more simple and efficient language, okay? So it's a lot of translating. All right, so it says we'll find the vector CD in coordinate form. Okay, we can handle that. So vector CD in coordinate form, so vector CD, what it's just asking for is if you were at C, how would you get to D? That's exactly what it's asking. Okay, so if I was at C, how would I get to D? So you could just count on your picture if you wanted, or just look at the points. So if I'm at 4, if I travel from here to here, well, that would take me 4. And then I got to go 3 more to get to 3. So 4 plus 3 is 7, and I'm going in the negative direction. So as far as the x direction, that would be -7. And you can count here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I went back -7. And then from here, how does a 2 go up to 7? Well, how does a 2 go up to 7? Well, that's just adding 5. Again, you could just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or just use your coordinates to make it very clear. And there you go. Again, in coordinate form, this is saying if you're at C, how do you get to D? I go back 7 and up 5, and there's a visual representation. Okay, question A is in the bag. Let's keep going. It says, meanwhile, back at camp at point C, so now we're back at point C, it says my camel has decided to wander off to an oasis at point W, okay? And it says, okay, W is at point 2, 8, no problem. So let's go and draw that. So I go over 2 and then up 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I went up 8. All right, so here's point W, and W is at 2, 8. So my camel was here at C, and then it started to and it walked up to 2, 8. Okay, we're just kind of drawing the story here. It says, after getting to the oasis, your camel picks up your scent, smelled ya, and it walks to meet you at point D. Okay, so then the camel walks this way, and it comes here. And I like these diagrams because it makes it very clear what you're looking at. And it says, I want you to write an equation linking vector CD, vector CW, and vector DW. So it's just trying to show the relationship between these vectors. And in essence, all this question is really making you prove that you understand it's making you prove that you understand that if you took vector CW and you added it to vector WD, because the start and the end point are the same, it would be the same as vector CD. And what it's saying is you should understand that CD is the resultant vector. Okay, so what I just said actually is the story you could tell. You're just saying CW plus, let's call it vector CW plus vector WD, right, plus vector WD is the same as just going from vector, from C to D, or is the same as vector CD. And if you don't believe me, we can actually prove this quite easily by just filling in the coordinates and doing vector math like we should be pretty good at. And if you're not, this is a great opportunity to practice this. So if we look at this, vector C is 4, 2. I'm going to just fill this in. Oops, CW. Oh gosh, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's rewind this. we're looking at vector CW. The question is, how do we get from 4 to 2? Sorry, I really jumped the gun. I just put in the same point. CW is saying, how do I get from C to W? So I'm at 4, and I go to 2, so that's back 2. There we go. And here, I'm at C, but how do I get to W? So I'm at 2, and I go up to 8, so I go up 6. So CW is -2, 6. And to clarify, you're not just copying the point like I tried to there. Oh, the shame. What I'm actually saying is, if you're at C, how do you get to W? Well, you go back 2, up 6. Boom, vector CW. Okay. Now let's add that to vector WD. So again, we're doing our X's and Y's. If we're at W, the X coordinate is 2, but we want to get to D, and the X coordinate is -3. So how do you get from 2 to -3? So I go back 2 and back 3 more, so I go back 5. And how do I get from 8 to 7? Well, I just go down 1. And you can see here, if you go back up to look at your answer, if we said CD is -7, 5, if we add these together, we should ideally get the same thing. We can check our work here. So, well, what is -2 plus -5? Well, that's -7. Well, that's a good start, good sign. And what is 6 minus 1? Well, that is 5. Awesome. And you can see that we've just proven that vector CW plus vector WD is, in fact, vector CD, and we got the same result twice, which is always a good sign in math. Okay, let's keep on tracking down here. Maybe I'll just hide my mistake. Okay, so it says, after you and your camel reconnect, you both head off to get ice cream at point I, and vector DI is 7I plus 2J. Okay, so looking at this, we're at vector D, me and my camel, and we're going to go to I, and it tells me how to get there. It says I travel 7 on I and then up 2 on Y. So I'm at -3. So if I go 7 over, I would end up at 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, right here. But then I'm at 7 on the Y, and it says I go 2 up, so I would actually end up at 9. So let's see, that's 8, 9. Oop, I wrote right where I want to be. We'll put a little above. So I is, let's see here. Well, what is I? Well, I was at -3 and I went over 7, so now I'm at 4. And I was at 7 and I went up 2, so now I'm at 9. Okay, so now I know point I, and I could draw my line there. There's another vector, is at 4, 9. So let's see what they want us to do with this. It says, okay, first find me vector IC. Okay. So now we're at I and we're going down to C. My gosh, quite the story. So I'm at I going to C. Okay, so I'm at I and I'm going down to C. I'm already at 4 and 4. So that means on the X's, don't do nothing. 0. Okay, and let's see here. If I'm going down to 9, well, I'm at 9. I'm going down to 2. Well, how does 9 get to 2? Yeah, just -7. And there you go. So vector IC, is saying if you're at I and you want to get to C, don't change anything on your X's and just go straight down 7. Boom, and you'll get right back to camp. And then this last question says, well, what is the coordinates of point I? Well, we actually did that. The coordinates of I are just over 4, up 9, 4, and 9. And boom, we did it. Quite the story and quite the adventure. I hope that was not too confusing. As always, subscribe below if you want to get notified when I make a new video. And if there's something you don't understand or something you need me to clarify, or if you want to make fun of me for making my silly mistake, I apologize. Leave a comment below, and we'll go from there. Okay, thank you. Bye.